Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Last December, I translated and shared a video that became viral after Fox News host Tucker Carlson used it in his show, and then President Trump tweeted it. It was a speech made by CCP expert Dongsheng. Let's show a picture of him. He talked about how the CCP had its own people at the top level of US politics, how the CCP preferred Biden as it couldn't fix Trump via Wall Street, etc. Today I will share with you a more shocking speech made by another top CCP strategist. He talked about the CCP's long-term strategy and the evil tricks about how to beat the US and become the #1 boss of the world. What shocked me was not only the content of his speech, but also how he could openly lay out his evil tricks so shamelessly. I think everyone in the world should know what he said. By the way, so far I'm the first and perhaps only one who has made such content available in English. So please make sure you like and spread this video after you watch it. Before I go to our main topic today, let me quickly share with you a piece of news I saw this morning. According to the CCP's official media, Wuhan's Chutian Daily, on March 20th and 21st, 320,000 visits were paid to the major public graveyards in Wuhan City, China. As a result, there were massive traffic jams on the road. Chinese people have a tradition to sweep their families' graves at Qingming Festival, which usually falls at the beginning of April. So last weekend was just the beginning of the tube sweeping wave. There can be more people in the coming weekends. So what do the 320,000 visits mean? We cannot say that this means that this many people have died of COVID-19 or CCP virus in Wuhan last year. But it definitely shows that the true death toll is much, much higher than the official number of only a few thousand deaths. A recent study published in Medical Journal of the Lancet found that as of April 2020, 6.9% of people in Wuhan had antibodies to the CCP virus COVID-19. This means that the number of people infected in Wuhan at that time was over 1.3 million, much higher than the 50,000 cases reported by the CCP. People always ask me how many people died of CCP virus in China. Although we still don't know the exact number, but 320,000 visits to grave sites in 2 days can give us some food for thought about the real death toll. Now, let's move to our main topic today. First of all, let me give a very brief introduction of the person who made this speech. His name is Jin Chanrong. He's Dongsheng's colleague, actually. They both work for the same university. If you Google Jin Chanrong's name in Chinese, you get many results, as he's a very famous and active person in China. He's the Deputy Dean of the School of International Studies, Deputy Director of the Center of American Studies of Renmin University of China. By the way, Renmin University of China specialized in training high-level officials for the CCP, and the School of International Studies is a very prestigious organization in China's foreign relationship policies. Jin Chanrong was once a visiting professor of University of Michigan. He is also a special advisor and expert for the CCP's Central Organization Department, Central United Front Work Department, the National Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, and the Ministry of Science and Technology, and a member of the Economic Diplomacy Expert Group of the Ministry of Commerce. Actually, among Chinese people, he is widely known as a senior advisor to the CCP and to Xi Jinping himself. He has a nickname 国师 in Chinese, which means national strategist, national advisor, or teacher of the nation. So this is just to give you a rough idea of who Jin Canrong is. The key point is he is not a nobody. On the contrary, he's very active and his mentality is the CCP's mentality. If we compare what has happened in the real world with what he said in 2016, that was about 5 years ago, we will see that the CCP did adopt many of his strategies. That is why it is very important to learn what he said, because that was and still is the CCP's plan. Jin Canrong's lecture was very, very long, more than 98,000 words. It took him 2 full days to deliver it. It is not clear who was in the audience, but it should be an internal event. I couldn't find any video recording of it. The transcript of the speech is published at his fan page. So all what I'm going to say are his original words, not made up by me or by anybody else. Now, let's share some of his most important points. The first aspect is what is the CCP's ultimate goal in terms of its position in the world. Jin Canrong made it very clear to squeeze out the US and become the #1 boss of the world. He said it was Xi Jinping's vision too. So this is his original words, quote, "But I believe that for President Xi, national rejuvenation is to surpass the United Kingdom and to catch up with the United States, that is, to become the #1 boss," unquote. When talking about the different tasks for different generations, this is how Jin Canrong put it, quote, "So Mao Zedong solved the problem of survival for the new China. Deng Xiaoping solved the issue of development. Now President Xi wants to solve the issue of respect. After this issue is solved, we will enter the 4th stage. But that will be the task for our next generation. In our generation, we need to obtain a status that is equal to the US. The task of our next generation is to put the US under our jurisdiction or management too. But the premise is that we need to do a good job in our generation," unquote. Did you hear that? Jin Canrong clearly stated that the CCP should put the US under its jurisdiction. That's the goal. And how to achieve this goal? These are the suggestions Jin Canrong gave out. Quote, "First, create conditions for the US to make mistakes, so one day we get the inspection team to lock it up," unquote. Let me explain this a little bit. In China, the CCP central government sometimes sends inspection teams to inspect how local officials are doing. If an official is found to have problems such as corruption, he or she will be punished. In Xi Jinping's era, the inspection system has become a tool to combat his political opponent. So we can understand this as Jin Canrong's general suggestion to create conditions for the US to make mistakes so that it damages itself. But some other Chinese commentators believe that there is a hidden message here. That is, Jin Canrong was actually suggesting that the CCP corrupt the US politicians with money and women to have them compromised. Haven't we already seen this happening in the US? A while ago, we saw the report about a CCP spy called Fang Fang or Christine Fang. Let's show a picture of the report. So this woman, Fang Fang, is allegedly a Chinese honey trap spy who had sex with politicians to infiltrate US government affairs. Also, haven't we already known the case of Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden was given by the CCP a lot of the so-called dry shares, which means free shares in a company that you don't have to invest or do anything in exchange. So I guess cases like this are the reasons why some Chinese commentators suspected that when Jin Canrong talked about creating conditions for the US to make mistakes, he meant to corrupt Americans, especially politicians and their families, to compromise them. And here are some other methods suggested by Jin Canrong, and I quote, "Second, we keep the US busy so that it will suffer from depression and want to quit the job itself. Third, we should get ourselves mixed together with the US so that it cannot fight us. We should create such a situation where you have me inside you and I have you inside me." Unquote. Did you hear that? I think many American politicians were very happy about being able to invest in China, do business with China, or attract Chinese investment to the US. But having the US mixed with China is exactly what the CCP wants. You can't really fight me or kill me if I'm already part of you, right? That's why we never lack the so-called panda huggers in the US who always lobby for the CCP. Jin Canrong also said, and I quote, "There's also another strategy called getting deeper into the US." Unquote. Then he suggested that Chinese companies invest in the US to make money and to control the market, that is, the economic value. And there is also a political value. Let's see how he did his math. He said, and I quote, "We in the Chinese government hope that in the end, every US congressman's district will have Chinese investment, and China will be able to control 1,000 or several thousand votes, and then we can influence the congressman's attitude. In fact, the US House of Representatives can be controlled because the United States has 312 million people and 435 members of the House of Representatives. So on average, a congressional district has about 750,000 people. 750,000 people's voter turnout is only 30%. That is, about 200,000 votes can decide the fate of the Congress candidate. Generally speaking, the numbers of votes for the two candidates are very close. The gap won't be particularly large. So in the end, I guess there is only a difference of 10,000 or several thousand votes. Therefore, if you can have several thousand votes in your hands, you are as good as his father or master. If China conducts good operations in the US, we may be able to buy it over and turn the US into our second standing committee of National People's Congress. In that case, we will be jumping out of the Thucydides trap." Unquote. What do you think about this? Too naive, too ideal, or not possible? Well, I happened to have translated another piece of news a while ago. Let's show a picture of that report. Basically, this report was published at a Chinese language website in the US in 2015. The report says that in the first round of Georgia's local election of the 50th House District in that year, only 2,500 of the 25,000 voters voted, and one of the candidates, Brad Raffensberger, trailed another candidate, Kelly Stewart, by only 26 votes. So the local Chinese community said to Raffensberger that they would ensure at least 100 votes for him in the next round of voting. Later on, the local Chinese community did manage to get more than 100 votes for Raffensberger, who then became the House representative of his district and then the Secretary of State of Georgia. Let's show a picture of the report about how local Chinese community helping swing state turn blue in the US election and the state Senate runoff, and how important the Chinese votes are in the US elections, etc. The full report is very long. You can go to my website later to check it out. If you are very familiar with US politics, you must have read tons of reports about how President Trump called Raffensberger last year during the election, pressured him and asked him to find out more votes for Trump, etc. Recently, Washington Post, which broke that story, said that they made a mistake and that Trump didn't say those things, didn't pressure him, etc. Let's show a screenshot of the report about Washington Post issuing a correction for the previous report. Anyway, my point here is not about Raffensberger himself. My point is the local Chinese community did help him win his seat in 2015 with leverage as small as only about 100 votes. So that was a perfect example of Jin Canrong's theory. It did work, right? If Americans are not careful, there are so many loopholes in our system and society that the CCP can take advantage of. That is my point. After talking about the political value of taking control of the votes, Jin Canrong said, and I quote, "Of course, we can also have other evil tricks, such as throwing the world into further chaos." Unquote. Yes, evil tricks. This is what he said exactly. I didn't make it up. You may wonder why he used the phrase evil tricks. Because in communist China, what is good and what is bad have been reversed in many things. People no longer feel ashamed about being evil or applying evil tricks on your enemy. As long as the goals can be achieved, the means don't really matter. Another method Jin Canrong talked about was to create more enemies for the US. He said, and I quote, "If there are 3 external enemies outside the US, I reckon the US will start to feel dizzy. If it has 4 enemies, it will completely get lost." So China's strategic task is to ensure that there are 4 enemies for the US. Tourists are certainly one. Russia is very much like one, but not enough. China was wanted to foster Brazil so that it can also become an enemy for the US. Brazil actually has the potential to become a great power, but it is not up to it. We couldn't do anything about it. Unquote. Did you work out the hidden messages here? In Jin Canrong actually hinted that tourists are one enemy that the CCP created or supported or wanted to create or support for the US. The CCP itself is certainly one enemy. So add Russia and Brazil to the list. They are the 4 enemies for the US. Apart from those, Jin Canrong also openly admitted that the CCP steals technology from the US. This is what he said, and I quote, "In the past 30 years, Germany has given us the biggest help with our technology import. Germany's help accounts for 46% of the imported technology. The Yankees have the best technology in the world's most cutting-edge technologies in the past 30 years were all invented by the Americans, but they just don't sell them to us. If you don't sell to us, we won't be polite. In the past, there was no internet, so we had nothing to do. Now, since there is such a thing called the internet, we of course will make good use of it." Unquote. Did you hear that? Now, since there is such a thing called the internet, we of course will make good use of it. He openly admitted that the CCP steals technology with the internet. Well, I hope that is not too much for you to digest. The recent US-China talks in Alaska turned out to be an insult and disaster for the US. The CCP is now using it to stir up patriotic sentiment in China. So I do hope that Jin Canrong's speech can help more people see through the CCP's evil nature, stand up, and speak out against it. By the way, I have posted the English translation of Jin Canrong's speech on my website. I will post a link underneath this video later. There are a lot more in it, so please do come back and check it out. Also, please make sure you share the translation of Jin Canrong's speech as well as this video as widely as you can. You won't see anything like this anywhere else. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so very much. See you next time.